So before you began publishing the paper, you knew each other, but it sounds like you're saying to us that the publication of the magazine and the interaction that you had with each other resulted in the developing of your relationship and esteem and love for each other.
Well, they didn't know me all that well. I met Ed when he was worshiping at 77th Street in Birmingham. And he was coming to the meeting. I was in a meeting there. And he told me about every sermon that I can make 2 or 3 sermons out of that. And he was coming in late every night besides. Anyway, and Dee I met when I was down in Texas preaching. And so I just came into this situation without a long-standing relationship, but I'll tell you, it cemented itself very quickly. And we just sort of fit together.
I'd only met Brent a time or two, and I'm not sure I really had met Dee until there was some discussion, at least, going on in the paper. And
but I had not met Paul before we came
but very quickly, as has been said, we came to appreciate each other very deeply. And I would certainly say also that those get-togethers, in which sometime our families came as well, and even our children, I think, valued that relationship with the children of the other editors and with the editors themselves very, very highly. It was a really, and hearing one another preach and singing together and all those things at South Jacksonville was a really high point in each year.
I hated to give that up now.
Yeah, and Dee's point about those occasions, we never intended to start an institution or something that was going to go on. It was a yearly matter of deciding, should we continue to do this for another year? And so those meetings were kind of, that was our main business each year. Decide, are we still doing something that we think is useful? And are we doing something that we feel like we should keep doing? I mean, as you guys who have tried it know, 17 years as an editor is a long time, and you get tired.
We did too, I think, something that doesn't appear rather obvious on the surface, and that is that the magazine treated, so far as I know, every major issue in some way or the other. It was not treated polemically, but it was treated skillfully and in a concise way. We finally, I think, treated every issue that I could think of that was, controverted.
I actually went through the issues preceding, I don't remember which year, but something had been said about a positive approach that did not condemn anything. And I intentionally went through the issues to see what things we might have neglected. And the only thing I found was that we had not had anything directly on premillennialism. And so I made certain that in the next issue that I edited, we had an article on premillennialism.
Well, to round out this first segment of our discussion, what would you say was the hardest part of publishing the magazine?
Getting Paul to do what he's supposed to do.
I'd asked that question be stricken from about who was most difficult to get his issues in on time. And I confessed I was probably the man. In fact, I was probably the slowest sometimes.
No, you weren't, Paul.
This is a revelation to me.
Well, see, all the material came to me, and as late as it was, I was always the last one because I knew how long I had. So, honest confession.
That's mighty kind of you.
I'll take that off of it.
We did have difficulty getting the issues out on time.
On time.
For various reasons, and no one person was to be held guilty of that. But that was one of the things that was a problem, getting the issues out on time, especially with 5 of us involved and all the things that we were involved with.
Well, I don't know how Ed did his. I mean, he was in India part of the time we were doing this and had to communicate with his secretary at Auburn and all kinds of things to get the thing done. It was tough on everybody's, but especially these fellows.
Well, the earliest articles I sent in was before I knew anything about a computer, and getting those articles down to about 750 words, typing them and then counting the words and then going back and trying to get rid of so many and then trying to see whether you'd gotten rid of that many or not. That was a problem. But I really feel that as I said, I believe you said it was your idea, it was not mine, but I thought that the one-page articles were a significant feature of the paper and probably improved the writing.
I think there's no question about that, because people had to trim the fat off. They couldn't just send it in, fluffy. It had to be trimmed. It was pretty concise.
And in a few instances, we were privileged to trim the fat.
There were times when I was really glad it was too long, because it gave me a good excuse to just about rewrite the thing.
Yeah.
Because there were some that, well, just, even in my eyes, as unskilled as I might have been, it was just difficult. But there were some people you did not edit. Older preachers,
Yeah.
who had written a lot, you always sent it back to them to do with it what they will when you told them that it's just longer than it needs to be. And I had several times people to say, I've cut it till it's bleeding. I can't take any more out. And I'd have to say, but we have to take it out. If we don't, the print's going to be so small, they're going to have a microscope to read it. Whatever. But anyway, that was a difficult thing for me in editing. But the writing was better because of it. Every adjective, I don't care how beautiful, every phrase, how wonderful, if it didn't carry weight, had to go.
That's true.
It had to be cut out. So that the writing was much improved on that account. Mine was, I know.
Yeah, you can learn. I mean, that's the first lesson I teach a graduate student. When I assigned them a 5-page book review and they turned me in a 10-page book review, I don't read it. I give it back and they'll say, well, this is a huge book, you just can't review this in 5 pages. I said, no, you can't write a 5-page review, or you can't write a 10-page review in 5 pages, you can just write a 5-page review. So we have to learn to put our thoughts in the limits that we have. I tell you on the late thing, I was going to comment for those of you who are involved or been involved in papers. Getting paper out on time, I'm absolutely sure if you put a graph on subscriptions and getting your paper out on time, that they would go together. That when you don't do it on time, that it hurts your subscriptions.
Last question as we transition into some directed stuff. A few of the articles have been republished in book format. What all has done that, or any future plans for more articles to be republished in that format that y'all know of? Or?
Well, I think there's some plans to do Brent's Psalms things in a book also, and rightfully so. Wonderful material that he has. So I think, don't you plan to do that?
Yes, I'm hoping to do some. It'll be a little different format, but I am hoping to do some things from the work on the Psalms material. And I may impose upon Ed to do some of his rear views.
Yeah, I'd like to do my rear views as soon as I fulfill all my other contracts.
Are there any, I mean, just for those who maybe don't know, your Hallmarks book, is that all articles from the Christianity magazine?
All but just 1 or 2. And I might just say that Gary Fisher selected those and published them. I didn't really do that.
And D, or That's Life, is that all from That's Life column?
All of those columns, except for a couple in the last book, were right out of the magazine, and they were just bits and pieces that I took that Brent and I got together and decided which ones would fit, and that's how we did it.